Okay, so today we're talking with Commissioner Tom Dale. He is a commissioner in Canyon County, Idaho, and the former mayor of Nampa, Idaho. Commissioner, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you. It's good to be with you.
I'm glad you can take the time. I always ask people, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be a Canyon County Commissioner.
Oh man, that's an interesting story. I went to Northwest Nazarene University. Well, it was college back then when I went there,
Mhm.
and started out as a pre-med major, ended up as a music education major, and then got a master's degree in music education and psychology down at North Texas State University in Denton, Texas, and then came back and I've taught school for a number of years. Somebody encouraged me to run for the Nampa City Council back in 1995, I think, and I did that, and lo and behold, won that seat. I don't know how that happened because I don't even remember doing any campaigning, but that was my introduction into elected public service. I spent 6 years on the council and then really enjoyed the work, really enjoyed working with people and trying to solve problems and make life better, and decided to run for mayor and won that position in 2002 and stayed there for 12 years and left that position after an election that I lost, actually.
Okay.
And then I was really encouraged by some good friends, mayors and others in the community to run for this county commission spot. And I did that and have been doing that for the last 6 years.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your service in so many ways. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
One of the, to me, the obvious question for someone with your set of experiences is what is the biggest difference between working as the mayor of a city versus a county commissioner?
Yeah. Well, let me start by saying both county government and city government is what I refer to as local government.
Sure.
And I have always held the position as a conservative politician, political person, that government which is closest to the people works the best.
Mhm.
And that's local government. And at its core, you could say school boards in the state of Idaho are local government as well, because I mean, they're right there. They're hands-on, feet on the ground. Regarding the difference between a city government and a county government, there's several that I think are worth mentioning. The county government has mandated services that are statutorily required by the state of Idaho to render. Those include court services, sheriff's department, facilities. There's a number of things that are mandated. Indigent medical services up until this year. We are also responsible for providing public defense for people who are indigent in that sense. The city government, on the other hand, those services that they provide are largely voluntary. A city is a voluntary organization that comes together to provide services, right? And people can choose whether or not they want to live in that city or not. So libraries, they're not mandated by the state, but most cities provide a library because people want that as part of their community. Parks are not mandated, but they provide them because people like them, right?
Yeah.
And so functionally, there are those differences between statutorily mandated services and those which are essentially voluntary.
Right.
Functionally, the difference between being a mayor and being a city council member or a mayor and a county commissioner, city council members are the legislative branch of city government. So they are the ones who essentially set policy and control the budget and make the laws, the ordinances under which a city functions. The mayor is the executive officer of that city government and is obligated to carry out those ordinances and manage the personnel in order to follow the directives of the city council. That's my view of a mayor. I don't think a mayor has a lot of unilateral power.
Right.
Everything that they do has to be authorized by the city council. That being said, in the public perception and the media eye, the mayor is the head of the ship, and so that's the one that they assign credits or blame to, depending on the situation.
Yes.
It's all the mayor's fault, right? They never say it's the city council's fault. It's the mayor's fault, right? That budget was the mayor's budget. No. It was the city council who adopted that budget. Yeah. Anyway, so in essence, the focus of the sphere of media and also the citizens of that city, they all point to the mayor as that person who sets the tone of the city. In the county government, you have three equal positions of county commissioners, and the county commissioners form both the executive branch and the legislative branch of county government. So the county commission, the board of county commissioners, are responsible for adopting ordinances and laws under which the county operates. The county commissioners adopt the budget under which all the rest of the other 6 elected officials operate as well. So they function sort of as the city council and the mayor all rolled into one. Mm-hmm. Now, in functionality, in some ways, there's less pressure that I feel as a commissioner, because there's not just one focal point of all that attention from either the citizens or the media. It's a 3-member, equally shared board, and no one commissioner can set policy or determine direction. It takes at least 2 commissioners to do anything. Yeah. So that's a pretty big difference.
It's a huge difference. And when you were the mayor, of course, all but a couple Idaho cities use the strong mayor form of government. You had appointment abilities for people like the chief of police or the fire chief or whatever. Now, they had to be confirmed by the council, right? So shared power there. Right. But as a county commissioner, many of those other officers run independently, like the sheriff and the prosecuting attorney and things like that. So is it ever hard for everybody to get along?
I would say if you look back over the history of Canyon County, there have been times when there have been battle lines drawn and huge conflicts between the other 6 elected officials and the 3 county commissioners. Yeah. And you look around the state, and there are counties where that exists today. And I believe the strongest point of contention is over the budget. Yeah. County commissioners very clearly understand they have no jurisdiction to tell a sheriff how to run the sheriff's office. They cannot tell the prosecuting attorney how to prosecute or how to run his office. They cannot tell the clerk how to do all his functions, or the coroner or the treasurer or the assessor. We have no authority over how those other 6 offices are run. The only point where all that comes together is on the adoption of the budget. And this is just my personal opinion now, because there is the statutory obligation that the adoption of the budget, the responsibility falls to the Board of County Commissioners. That being said, there are some county commissioners who may seem to operate under the illusion that because they control the budget, they can control that office. And that is going to cause problems anytime that is followed.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite parlor tricks, if I'm talking to a group of county officials, is to just randomly on that day Google fights between commissioner and sheriff or commissioner or whatever across the country, and you'll get 20, 30 hits every day, from somewhere where there's a battle either over the running of a jail or a budget or a new personnel rule, for example, that the commissioners want and the electeds don't, or the row officers don't want. So how do you feel about how you're all getting along these days in Canyon County?
I feel that there are some real issues going on. When I came on board here 6 years ago, and I'm pleased to say that largely those issues have been resolved. And for the last 5 years at least, we've been working very, very well together. Of course, there are points of disagreement that come up. That's normal and natural in any kind of a body where you have strong-willed people. And I would say, arguably, that anybody who runs for elected office is at least in some aspect a type A kind of personality.
Yeah.
And so you're going to have disagreements, and that's good. That's healthy. The point of unhealthiness is when you start calling people names and drawing conclusions, making assumptions that reflect poorly on your other co-workers.
Yes. Yeah. Understood.
And that can become a pattern that is nothing but a downward spiral into dysfunctionality.
Yeah. Well, I think the county structure is particularly vulnerable to that because you have not only the fact that everyone's a human and has different viewpoints and different styles, but you also have that relative independence of the independently elected row officers. And it can make it real hard to keep everyone rowing in the same direction, you know? Yeah.
Well, and I think, in my mind anyway, and I've had some opportunities to talk to some of our Idaho Association of County meetings, the key to getting along is understanding that we're all in this together. Yeah. We all draw our paychecks from the same taxpayers, and we all have the same goal, and that is cohesive, well-run county government. Do the best you can with what you have. And you can't be accusing people of being inept or unqualified for the office. They were elected by the same people who elected me.
Yeah.
And so if I say, well, you're just a bad prosecuting attorney or just a really bad assessor, you're not doing it. Well, wait a minute. So I can trust the people who elected me, but I can't trust those same people to elect that office. Yeah. That's not right. So we have to, you have to take that higher ground and say, okay, we're all working the same. Everybody has a different viewpoint based on their background, their education, their experience level, and then understand that it can all work together if we come together with that attitude.
Well, with that attitude, if all the commissioners had that attitude, all the counties would be running smoothly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I try to point people to a book that largely influenced me back a few years ago when I was the mayor, and that is Stephen Covey's last book that he wrote called The Third Alternative. Are you familiar with that one?
I don't know that one. I've seen his other books, but I don't know that one. Can you tell us about it?
It's a great one for working together, and it comes from the basic premise that most people in government and in business and families are two alternative thinkers. In other words, there's your idea and there's my idea. Mm-hmm. And your idea is obviously not as good as my idea because it's not my idea, right? Yeah. And conversely, you think that my idea is not as good because I'm just not as smart as you, right? And those lead to win-lose situations. And I have worked with people who absolutely, in order for them to feel like their idea is winning, somebody has to lose. Win-lose situations. You don't work out things very well. Stephen Covey calls compromise lose-lose. So you give up some of your ideas, I give up some of mine, and neither one of us get what we want, but we move ahead in a lose-lose situation. The win-win situation that Stephen Covey advocates is where we truly sit down together and respect and understand that you have legitimate reasons for believing like you do based on, again, your education, your background, your experience. The things you've gone through in life have led you to this reasonable position in your mind, and you have to think the same of me. And then we can work at that conflict and come up with a third alternative, which is better than your idea and better than my idea, and it's brand new, and it moves things forward in a win-win situation. It's a great book for that kind of stuff.
Well, I'll have a look at it. Thanks for the tip.
Yeah.
One of the other differences about being a mayor or a city council member running for that office and running for commissioner is that in Idaho, the city municipal elections are nonpartisan, and the
Right.
county commission and all of the county offices are partisan offices.
Right.
How was that for you?
Um, in Canyon County, it's a little different than some other counties, particularly Ada County. When I think of that, they're our neighbor next door. Um, we have a primary election that occurs in May.
Mm-hmm.
And in Canyon County, I'm sure you're aware of this, being someone who studies these things. In Canyon County, if you win the primary election as a Republican, you're in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember when the last time a Democrat won either a House or a Senate seat or a county commission seat in Canyon County.
I don't remember there ever being one since I've
Yeah.
lived here, but there may have been one back in the 90s. Yeah.
So it creates an interesting position situation because the real election occurs in May.
Mm-hmm.
And if you win that in May, then you have 7 months where you're sort of you have 5 of those months where you're not even the commissioner-elect because the real election occurs in November.
Right.
And so then you become the commissioner-elect and you can start really planning for it. But it's an interesting situation because you're kind of in never land for that 7 months. Whereas in a municipal election, mm-hmm. you're elected in November and you take office in January, which is a normal time period.
Yeah, you're left in that sort of limbo for a lot longer in the single party county like that.
Yeah.
Well, you never know. Stranger things have happened. There may be a Democrat win one day. Who knows?
Yeah. And to that point, and I think this is something that could be worthwhile for students to think about, is in reality, very little of what county elected officials do has anything to do with partisanship.
Right.
Particularly when I think of the sheriff or the coroner or the assessor or the clerk in some ways, or for sure the treasurer. You just want people who know their business to take care of that business in the best manner possible. And it doesn't matter 2 bits worth if they're Republican or Democrat behind their name.
Yeah.
I want the best person who knows the most how to deal with money to be my treasurer. I don't care if they're Republican or Democrat.
Right.
Commissioners may be a little different because we do make decisions that could be alluded to as politically conservative or liberal, depending on the actions. Mm-hmm. And that, well, case in point, what's happening right now, unfortunately, I think, with this whole COVID situation, there are people that have aligned a more restrictive viewpoint to a liberal Democrat viewpoint and a less restrictive to a conservative Republican. That's totally fallacious. It's wrong.
Right.
That is, and it's damaging. This COVID health crisis is not a political issue. It should not be, although it has been made into that.
Mm-hmm. So. Well, that was what my follow-up question to that was going to be, that I think that you're the commissioner who sits on the district health board, correct?
Right.
Yeah. So one of the odd kind of unexpected jobs of a county commissioner is that you may end up being the representative on the district health board for your region, and you are that person on Southwest District Health, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's really relevant to point out that I started out college as a pre-med major. Mm-hmm. Has nothing to do with anything, man.
Yeah.
Because I did not succeed with that major.
Yeah, but you can probably figure out that the medical experts say to wear a mask.
Well, pretty much they're doing that. And really what we are trying to do in Southwest District Health is kind of be in the middle. And we are getting, I would say, 50-50 equals letters from angry people saying, you're killing people because you're not requiring a mask mandate. And people from the other side are saying, I'll kill you if you do.
Yeah.
Literally, not literally, but figuratively.
Yeah.
And so we find ourselves in this between a rock and a hard place on that. And I would say this is a political stance. We're talking about politics here. So I have tried over the 24 years of my elected service to base decisions on principles. Principles don't change. Situations change, but principles do not change. And you can identify those principles that line up either with a more conservative political thought line or a more liberal political thought line, and that's okay. People are free to do that, but identify your principles. Mm-hmm. And one of the principles that I learned that I think is, it could be a conservative sort of a principle, is that when an authoritative body passes an ordinance or a law or creates a mandate that is at its heart unenforceable, you've really not done anything good. And in fact, you've done something to more than likely weaken the integrity and the trust of that organization. Mm-hmm. And so based on that principle, I have supported making strong recommendations for people to wear masks in situations where they can't social distance, and to follow the other guidelines, which is wash your hands regularly, sanitize surfaces, and stay home if you're sick. Those are the things working together that really make a difference. And that aligns with the principle that I am not willing to pass a law that is unenforceable. An example of that, when I was mayor, we had a group of people who were lobbying, advocating, encouraging the city council to pass an ordinance to restrict cats.
Like house cats?
Yes, cats.
Yeah, okay,
cats.
Yes.
And so people would be required to keep their cats in their own yards and keep them on a leash if they're going to take them, just like dogs. So pass a cat ordinance like dogs. And our animal control people and our police chief and our attorney said that is an unenforceable ordinance. You can pass it if you want to, but it will do nothing. It'll make people laugh at you. Yeah. And that's a really good example on the city side where we did not pass that ordinance about cats because you couldn't. Who's going to enforce it? Mm-hmm. You can't.
Yeah. Well, those are interesting thoughts. I know that your district board will keep revisiting that week after week as hopefully our numbers will begin to go in the right direction,
right.
And everybody will stay safe. Tom, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with us today. I really appreciate it. I know you're busy, and I know that there's probably some crazy budget stuff coming down the line for you, like everybody else.
Oh yeah. Well, we're pretty much done with our budget. We voted last week to publish a tentative budget. That goes to the newspaper. It'll be in the newspaper. And then later on, towards the end of the month, August 26th or 7th, 26th, I think maybe, we have our public hearing for the budget.
Okay.
And so it's pretty well set up, and the tough lifting has been done.
Good. Well, thank you, and I'll look forward to talking to you again.
Anytime. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.